Fire and Ash is not just a movie, it's a cinematic overload. This is a film so massive, so emotionally intense, and so unapologetically extreme that there are moments where you'll wonder how it was even allowed to exist. James Cameron didn't just make another sequel, he made a war epic, a family tragedy, a political thriller, and a spiritual apocalypse all at the same time. And somehow, it works. This is the story of Avatar: Fire and Ash, from its opening moments of grief to its volcanic, world-altering finale. The film begins immediately after the ending of The Way of Water. Pandora is quiet, but not peaceful. Neteyam is dead, and the Sully family is broken. Jake Sully, once a soldier, once a leader, now walks with the weight of failure on his shoulders. He survived, his son didn't, and that truth poisons everything. Jake becomes colder, more tactical, retreating into the mindset of a Marine, because strategy is easier than grief. Neytiri, meanwhile, is unraveling. She has lost her son, her forest home, and now even the ocean feels like borrowed ground. Her rage is barely contained, and it often lands on Spider, the human boy she helped raise, not because Spider did anything wrong, but because his very existence reminds her of the Sky People, and worse, of the man who killed her child. That man is Miles Quaritch, still alive, still hunting, still obsessed. While the Sullys mourn, Pandora changes. Far from the forests and oceans, deep in the mountains near active volcanoes, live the Manquan clan, also known as the Ash People. They are Na'vi, but not like the ones we know. Their lands were destroyed by volcanic eruptions, their families burned, their skies turned black, and when they prayed to Ewa, Pandora's sacred goddess, nothing happened, so they turned away. The Ash People reject Ewa. They reject balance. They believe survival comes from power, not harmony. And unlike other Na'vi clans, they embrace technology, salvaged weapons, human machinery, and fire. Their leader is Varang. Varang is not just a warrior, she is a prophet of rage. She rules through fear, devotion, and domination. She believes Pandora must be reshaped through destruction before it can be reborn. And when Quaritch finds her, everything changes. Quaritch approaches Varang expecting to manipulate her. Instead, she breaks him. Varang sees Quaritch as proof of her ideology, a man who abandoned his humanity and became something new through violence. She challenges him, humiliates him, dominates him, and in doing so, awakens something dangerous. For the first time, Quaritch isn't just a soldier following orders, he's becoming something else. Together, Quaritch and Varang form an alliance that terrifies even the RDA. Humans and Ash Na'vi unite, not to conquer Pandora, but to remake it. Meanwhile, the Sully family makes a crucial decision. Spider cannot survive long-term on Pandora without constant equipment. Jake decides to take Spider back to the human high camp for safety, even though it feels like losing another son. Kiri is devastated. She understands Spider better than anyone, both outsiders, both searching for belonging, and sending him away feels like betrayal. As the Sullys travel through the skies aboard a massive flying vessel, disaster strikes. The Ash People attack. The convoy is torn apart mid-air in one of the film's most brutal action sequences. Family members are scattered across Pandora, some captured, some injured, some presumed dead. For the first time in the franchise, Na'vi fight Na'vi, and the emotional damage cuts deeper than any human invasion ever could. As the story fractures, the film dives into shocking territory. Characters confront despair. Some contemplate suicide. Others face execution. Drug-induced visions blur reality and prophecy. Kiri experiences haunting hallucinations tied to Iwa, but even Iwa feels distant now, quieter than before. Is Pandora abandoning its children, or are its children abandoning Pandora? Meanwhile, Quaritch issues an ultimatum: give us Spire and we stop. Jake is forced to face an impossible choice: protect Pandora or sacrifice his son. The Tulkun return. Peya Khan, once a symbol of peaceful resistance, now faces judgment from his own kind. Through a haunting tribunal sequence, the Tulkun debate whether pacifism has failed. Their conclusion is chilling. Peace has limits. For the first time, Pandora's most sacred creatures prepare for war. The final act is pure escalation. The RDA launches a full-scale assault. The Ash People strike from the mountains. The oceans rise. The skies burn. Jake reunites with Neytiri, Loak, and Kiri in the middle of chaos. Old wounds reopen. New ones form. Varang confronts Neytiri in a brutal ideological showdown: rage versus grief, fire versus forest. Quaritch faces Jake once more, but this time the battle is not just physical. It's about identity, about what we become when survival demands transformation. Peya Khan and the Tulkun enter the fight, tearing apart human war machines in scenes that rival and surpass anything from the Way of Water. By the end, Pandora is forever changed. The Ash People are defeated, but not erased. The RDA is crippled, but not gone. And the Sully family survives, scarred, altered, and no longer whole. Avatar: Fire and Ash ends not with peace, but with reckoning. Pandora is no longer united, Eywa is no longer unquestioned, and the war is no longer just humans versus Na'vi. It's ideology versus ideology, adaptation versus tradition, love versus survival. James Cameron doesn't give us closure, he gives us transformation. This isn't just the darkest Avatar film, it's the most ambitious, the most emotionally brutal, and the most unhinged. And somehow it proves that blockbuster cinema can still be art. If you enjoyed this full movie breakdown, hit like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Do you think Avatar: Fire and Ash is the boldest Avatar yet, or did Cameron finally go too far? Because Pandora is burning, and the war has only just begun. At first glance, the ending of Avatar: Fire and Ash looks familiar. There's a massive battle. There's chaos across land, air, and lava-scorched terrain. There are Na'vi, humans, machines, creatures, and fire colliding in spectacular fashion. But if you think this climax is about victory, you're missing James Cameron's point. This final battle is about what Pandora becomes after innocence is gone. The most shocking moment in the ending is not an explosion. It's the Tulkun fighting back. For generations, the Tulkun represented moral purity, beings so spiritually evolved that they rejected violence completely, even when hunted. When they enter the conflict, Cameron is making a devastating statement. Absolute pacifism cannot survive in a world that refuses restraint. This is not portrayed as triumph, it's portrayed as tragedy. The Tulkun don't fight because they want to, they fight because non-violence failed them. Pandora doesn't win this moment, Pandora loses its last illusion. Varang's fall is deliberately underwhelming. She doesn't die in a grand, operatic showdown. She isn't emotionally redeemed. She isn't proven wrong. Instead, she becomes irrelevant. And that's the point. Varang was never meant to be the villain. She was the symptom of something far more dangerous: faith collapsing under suffering, trauma turning into ideology, survival evolving into extremism. When Varang falls, the Tulkun do not suddenly return to Eywa. They scatter, fragmented, radicalized, unmoored. Cameron is telling us that extremism doesn't disappear when leaders fall, it mutates. By the final scenes, Quaritch is still alive, and that matters. Despite everything he's seen, despite fighting alongside the Ash people, despite wearing a Na'vi body, he still doesn't belong. Quaritch has adapted physically, but not spiritually. He understands Pandora tactically, not emotionally. And Cameron leaves him alive because Quaritch represents something permanent. Colonial ideology doesn't die easily. It evolves. Quaritch isn't the past. He's the warning. Spider's last decision quietly becomes the moral center of the ending. He refuses both sides. He does not embrace human domination. He does not fully surrender to Na'vi ideology. Instead, Spider chooses autonomy. This is massive, because Spider represents the first generation that understands both worlds and rejects the extremes of both. He is not a bridge. He is a fracture, and Cameron is setting him up as the future's greatest destabilizer or savior. Jake and Neytiri survive, but they are not healed. Jake has finally realized that strategy alone cannot protect his family. Neytiri has accepted that hatred will only create more loss. But acceptance is not resolution. They are leaders in a world that no longer believes in simple answers. The family survives, but the idea of home does not. The film doesn't end with celebration. It ends with ash drifting through the air. Ash is destruction, but also renewal. Cameron deliberately avoids closure because fire and ash isn't an ending, it's a transformation. Pandora has entered its political era, no longer united by Awa alone, no longer defined by Hardany, no longer protected by innocence.